What's up guys, my name is Ace, and I'm currently getting over COVID right now. That's why I haven't uploaded in the past couple days, and I apologize in advance if my voice sounds a little bit rough. But I do feel like this is a very important video that I wanted to make here, because yesterday we got a huge video from NerosCinema, and with this he collected a bunch of data on the Call of Duty franchise, and after crunching the numbers, this is the graph that he ended up with. And the biggest takeaway from this, and the thing that the community has kind of exploded talking about, is the apparent massive dip in popularity when it comes to monthly active users, excluding COD Mobile, shortly after the launch of Modern Warfare 2019. According to this graph, the monthly active users dropped from 49 million all the way down to 26 million in just one fiscal quarter. And this also appears to be by far the lowest point in the Call of Duty franchise, at least looking back to Black Ops 3. And the interpretation here is, since we all know that Modern Warfare was one of, if not the highest selling Call of Duty game of all time, it would appear that these sales didn't translate to player retention and monthly active users over time. So it does appear, even though a ton of people bought the game, because we do know that has been stated, we have the numbers on that, it appears they weren't able to keep players around, which suggests the quality of the game wasn't very good. The marketing was on point, they were able to reach out and sell to a lot of people, but they couldn't keep those players around. And when I first watched this video, I actually felt so vindicated. I was so happy to see this. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see that Modern Warfare, even though it sold well, didn't perform well when it comes to player retention, which would signal that they made a lot of poor decisions with that game. And that's something I've been ranting about for years on this channel. While I will acknowledge that Modern Warfare appealed to a lot of players, brought a lot of people back into the franchise that had left for a very long time, and it brought a lot of new players in, I felt the gameplay design philosophy strayed way too far away from what I expect out of a Call of Duty game, and I stand behind this statement to this day, at least for the regular, normal Call of Duty multiplayer experience, not ground war or gunfight or anything like that, just the regular 6v6 style gameplay. Modern Warfare 2019 is the only Call of Duty game in the franchise that I straight up didn't enjoy and couldn't seem to find any enjoyment in. And I do want to make that very clear at the beginning here. I am no defender of Modern Warfare 2019. I did not like that game. I felt like it set in motion a bunch of things for the franchise that we're now seeing a lot of long-term failures with, like the skill-based matchmaking system and the disbanding lobbies. It seemed like Nero did a great job with his data collection. His graphs were very well presented. And I was ready to hop on and record a video, basically just mimicking what he said and giving props to him and trying to drive traffic toward his video. Because like I said, I just felt very vindicated by this. Now before doing this, I wanted to make sure I was being as responsible as possible and I wasn't potentially spreading misinformation, so I wanted to check up on the sources. And unfortunately, I found some pretty big issues and inconsistencies here. And I feel this graph is unfortunately very misleading and potentially not even close to reality. And with that, I also want to be very clear, I don't think this was intentionally manipulated by Nero in any way. You can actually pretty easily track how he put this data together, and the initial data does come directly from Activision. This is official data that has been presented with monthly active users across all Activision titles. That is one little asterisk that I wish Nero would have put in. It's a bit nitpicky, I know, since Call of Duty is Activision's bread and butter. That would make up for the vast majority of Activision's monthly active users. But my biggest issue here comes from the mobile data, because the graph that everyone's spreading around here that came from Nero, this is Activision's monthly active users excluding data from COD Mobile. So it's just trying to separate COD Mobile, which makes sense, of course. If we're trying to judge regular Call of Duty, like the normal premium releases of Call of Duty, you would, of course, remove that data for COD Mobile. So while watching his video, everything seems sound. His thought process behind this, the data collection, the graphs are beautiful, very well made. However, the biggest issue that I found here is the source of the COD Mobile data. While watching through Nero's video, I got the impression that he was presenting it as if this was official data that we can access for COD Mobile. However, when I looked at this a little bit closer, it was pretty clear that the website that he used for this data is activeplayer.io. And the big thing to point out with this, which activeplayer.io is very clear about, all of these numbers are estimates. And even according to them themselves, they very clearly state that they should not be used as a factual reference. They say they have developed an algorithm that generates data using already available values from the market, But this is by no means official data whatsoever, and therefore, while they may be right, they also may be very wrong. And that's the big problem here. It immediately brings this graph into question because we are no longer dealing with factual data. And as much as I wanted this graph to be true, because that would essentially force Infinity Ward to make massive changes to how they're approaching their next game, Modern Warfare 2 coming this year, and that's something that I really want to see, at the same time, there was that little voice in the back of my head that was saying, this doesn't seem right based on my recollection of the apparent popularity of the game, even a couple months after it launched. When I think back to those days, I think how ridiculously popular YouTube videos were covering Modern Warfare. And again, not just within the first month of launch or anything, but this was consistent over time up until the release of Warzone and beyond. And that's another thing. I'm mainly honing in on that point before Warzone launched. Obviously, once Warzone launched, everything skyrocketed for monthly active users, and therefore it's hard to judge anything after that when it comes to individual Call of Duty games, because Warzone skews that so much, and there's no way to separate Warzone from that. But yeah, when I think back to just how popular Modern Warfare was on YouTube and on Reddit even, that just didn't align with this graph at all. And while those, of course, aren't perfect sources of information, and those aren't a factual reference for monthly active users, you would at least think the stats would follow somewhat of a similar trend. And it turns out that's just not the case. The first reference I want to look at here is the subreddit popularity. You would think even if a game sold incredibly well, if there was a massive drop in player count and player retention shortly after release, you probably wouldn't see a whole lot of growth in that subreddit over time. It would likely plateau at least to some extent and stagnate over time. This is a graph of the subscriber count for Black Ops 4 in orange, Modern Warfare in blue, and then Black Ops Cold War in green. So that's 3 consecutive Call of Duty games, 1 game before Modern Warfare, 1 game after Modern Warfare. And the results for this are pretty astounding and completely contradicts the trend that we should be seeing based on the graph presented by Nero. Now, it is worth noting, this right here is the point where Warzone launched, so I am just focusing on everything that happened before that point. Anything after that point, like I said, Warzone skews everything. You can't make an accurate analysis after that. But even before that, it was pretty clear that Modern Warfare 2019 was head and shoulders above the previous and following Call of Duty game when it comes to Reddit popularity. And not only that, it was still rapidly climbing, and this was before we'd even heard about Warzone. So this is the opposite of what you would expect to see when you look at Nero's graph. Now, if total subscriber count isn't enough, here is also the comments per day, and once again, you can see Modern Warfare subreddit was getting noticeably more comments per day compared to Black Ops 4 and Black Ops Cold War. But I don't want to just look at this one source being Reddit, because obviously Reddit isn't for everyone. It's not necessarily an accurate representation of the total player base. But we do have access to another great statistical tool online, and this is Google Trends. And with this, when we look at the worldwide interest over time, looking at the past 4 Call of Duty games, starting with Black Ops 4 in green, then Modern Warfare in blue, Cold War in red, and then finally, I don't know if you can even see that little tiny yellow bump at the end there, that's Call of Duty Vanguard. But if we look at this, again, excluding anything after Warzone when it comes to Modern Warfare 2019, which is at this point right here, anything after that is obviously skewed. But even before that, you can see it appears to have retained its interest over time better than any of the other years in Call of Duty. So when I take a look at this data and compare it to my personal experience back in the day with how popular at least I felt Modern Warfare was, regardless of my opinions of the game, like I said, I didn't like the game, this seems to track a whole lot better than Nero's graph. It seemed like there was a lot more interest throughout Modern Warfare's life cycle, even before Warzone was known to exist, and the Google Trends as well as the subreddit trends seem to back this up a whole lot better than Nero's graph, which again could be so easily and massively skewed by one website that not only estimates the player count, they also clearly state that their data should not be used as factual information. So unfortunately, as much as I would love Nero's graph to be true, because like I said, that would essentially force Infinity Ward to make massive changes with their upcoming game that would hopefully better suit me and what I look for in a Call of Duty game. Unfortunately, while I can't say for sure that it is false, I can say that the key part of this dataset comes from a very questionable source, and it also seems to directly contradict any other data that we have available when it comes to the popularity of the game. And as a result, I wouldn't recommend taking this graph too seriously. Now, just to be clear as well, this video is not meant to be an attack on Nero. I like Nero, and like I said, I really don't think he was intentionally trying to mislead anybody with this video. Like I said, he was off to a great start by getting official data from Activision. He also presented this data in a great way. I was actually very impressed by his presentation of this data. It's just unfortunate that he didn't appear to do his due diligence when it comes to verifying the accuracy of the COD Mobile player count data, which was the key to creating that graph. Without that COD Mobile data, everything looked fine. The whole point of his video and that graph was to eliminate the COD Mobile data from the equation, and when the data can't be taken seriously, the end result can't be taken seriously either. Now, I know full well this video is likely going to receive some backlash. There's probably going to be certain videos made about this, calling me a shill, a sellout, all that good stuff. But I just wanted to remind you, I've been very clear since the launch of Modern Warfare, even before the launch of Modern Warfare 2019. I did not like that game. I would have loved to agree with this graph. I would have loved to spread this graph to you guys and proudly proclaim, "I told you so," to all of those people that defended Modern Warfare and its popularity. But at the end of the day, for me, the truth is far more important than what I want to be the truth. I always try to make an effort to ensure that I'm providing you guys reliable, accurate data, and sometimes that data goes against my personal bias, and I always try to make sure I'm able to separate the two, which is what I'm doing here. So there we go. That is going to wrap it up for this video. Please, I don't want to see any hate or anything directed toward Nero. Like I said, I don't feel like he was being intentionally misleading by any means here. And while it is still possible that he was right, I simply don't feel comfortable spreading this data as if it's a fact or as if it's even remotely true, when there's just too many questions surrounding the accuracy and validity of the data. And this is where I want to hear from you guys in the comment section below as well. What do you think about the graph that NerosCinema presented? Do you still feel it's potentially accurate, even though the source itself is not a reliable source that should be taken as fact? Do you still feel there is some truth to that graph? Or do you feel like it's not quite accurate? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.